I was watering the plants at my hardware store, wearing my old lucky overalls. A woman in a G-Wagon threw her keys at my face and screamed at me to load 20 bags of soil. She demanded the manager fire me, but she forgot one thing. I signed the manager's paychecks.
The Quiet Case Files.
The sun was just beginning to crest over the gables of the warehouse, casting long, golden shadows across the gravel lot. It's my favorite time of day. Before the rush, before the phones start ringing, and before the air fills with the smell of sawdust and diesel. I was standing in the garden section, right where the hydrangeas are grouped together. There's something about the way the water drips off those broad leaves that settles my soul. I'm 74 now, and while my knees tell me I should be sitting in a recliner somewhere, my hands still crave the grit of the earth. I wasn't wearing a suit or a tie. I haven't worn one of those for years, unless someone's getting married or buried. I had on my old Carhartt overalls, the ones with the frayed hems and the permanent grease stain on the left pocket, and a faded trucker hat I've owned since the late 90s. To anyone passing by, I probably looked like a part-timer or maybe just a guy who'd wandered in from the backfield. I didn't have a name tag. I didn't need one. My name is on the deed to this land and 14 other locations just like it across the state. I spent 40 years building this franchise from a single-room shop with a leaky roof. Now, in my semi-retirement, I just wanted to enjoy the quiet of a Saturday morning and make sure my plants were taken care of. It was a peaceful scene, the kind of morning where you feel like you finally earned a bit of silence. I remember the first bag of mulch I ever sold. I carried it on my shoulder for an old lady who reminded me of my grandmother. That was the philosophy I built this place on: service, respect, and hard work. Nowadays, I mostly come in to keep the spirit of the place alive. I like chatting with the regulars, men like me who have calluses on their palms and stories in their eyes. We talk about the weather, the price of lumber, and the way things used to be. It's a community, not just a retail space. Or at least, that's what I try to maintain. I've seen kids grow up to become contractors in these aisles, and I've seen fathers pass down their toolboxes to sons. It's more than just wood and nails to me. It's a lifetime of connections. But peace is a fragile thing in the world of retail. The rhythmic sound of the sprinkler was suddenly drowned out by a sharp, piercing noise. It wasn't the sound of a forklift or a delivery truck. It was a shrill, impatient blast of a high-end car horn. I looked up, squinting against the morning glare. A pristine, white G-Wagon had swerved into the loading zone, ignoring the no parking signs and the yellow lines. It sat there idling, its engine a low, expensive growl that seemed to vibrate through the soles of my boots. The driver didn't wait more than 3 seconds before leaning on the horn again, a long, aggressive wail that echoed off the metal siding of the warehouse. It felt like a slap in the face to the quiet morning I'd been enjoying. A white luxury SUV honks aggressively in the loading zone, breaking the silence. The driver's side door swung open, and out stepped a woman who looked like she'd been plucked straight from a high-end catalog. She was in her early 40s, wearing a white designer tracksuit that looked far too clean for a hardware store. Her sunglasses were the size of saucers, and her hands were adorned with enough gold to make a jeweler blush. She didn't look at me. She looked through me. Before she even reached the curb, she raised a hand and snapped her fingers twice. It was the kind of gesture you use for a disobedient dog, not a human being. "You!" she barked, pointing a perfectly manicured finger toward a pallet of heavy mulch bags near the entrance. "I need 20 bags of the organic soil. Now, I'm already 5 minutes late for my brunch at the country club, and I don't have time to wait for you to wake up." I stood there, the hose still dripping my hand, and just watched her. I've lived long enough to know how a person treats someone they think is beneath Them tells you everything you need to know about their soul. Before I could even open my mouth to direct her to the service desk, she reached into her designer handbag, pulled out a heavy key fob with a leather tassel, and flicked her wrist. The keys sailed through the air. I didn't reach for them. I let them hit the gravel with a dull thud right next to my boots. "Load them up," she commanded, checking her watch. "And be careful with the upholstery." I looked down at the keys in the dirt, then back up at her. I kept my voice low and steady. "I'm sorry, ma'am," I said, "but I don't work the loading dock." She stared at me as if I had just spoken in a foreign language. Her mouth pulled back into a thin, tight line, and I could see the pulse thumping in her neck. People like her aren't used to the word no, especially not from someone who looks like they spend their days elbow deep in potting soil. To her, I was just a piece of the scenery, a background character in the movie of her very important life. She looked at my dirt-stained overalls and my old hat, and I could practically see the gears turning in her head, categorizing me as a nuisance to be brushed aside. "Do you have any idea how much money I spend here?" she hissed, her voice dropping into a dangerous, low register. "I have a corporate account. I'm a VIP customer. When I tell a worker to do something, I expect it to be done without the commentary." She took a step toward me, the gravel crunching under her expensive sneakers. She smelled like heavy perfume and entitlement, a scent that didn't belong anywhere near my hydrangeas. I stood my ground, my hands resting loosely at my sides. I faced down angry contractors, city inspectors, and bank managers of my time. A woman in a tracksuit wasn't going to make me blink, but she wasn't finished. She was used to getting her way through sheer volume and intimidation, and I could tell she was just getting warmed up. Vanessa's face turns red. She steps closer, invading his personal space. "Look at you," she spat, her voice rising so loud it started to draw eyes from across the parking lot. "You're filthy. You've got dirt under your fingernails, and you smell like a compost heap. It's disgusting that they even let someone like you wander around the front of the store." She let out a sharp, mocking laugh that felt like glass scraping against metal. "I spend more money here in a single month than you probably make in an entire year of whatever it is you do. You're a relic, a senile old man who's clearly past his expiration date." I looked down at my hands. Yes, there was dirt under my nails. That dirt was from the land I'd worked for 40 years. It was honest dirt. I looked at her pristine, manicured fingers and felt a wave of pity. She'd never known the satisfaction of building something with her own two hands. She only knew how to buy things and break people. I didn't argue. I didn't raise my voice. I leaned down, slowly and deliberately, and picked her car keys out of the gravel. I wiped the dust off the leather fob with my thumb. She reached out her hand, expecting me to place them back in her palm like a servant. Instead, I turned and walked 3 steps to the side, placing the keys firmly on a wooden shelf next to a display of bird feeders. "I'm not loading your car, and I'm not taking your abuse," I said quietly. Her eyes went wide, her face contorting into a mask of pure rage. "You're going to be destitute by the end of the day," she screamed. "I'll make sure you never work in this town again." The scene was starting to attract a small crowd. A couple of regular contractors I knew by name were standing near their trucks, watching with folded arms and grim expressions. They knew who I was, but they also knew I could handle myself. Vanessa, however, mistook their silence for agreement. She thought she was the star of the show, and she wanted a bigger audience for my execution. She was vibrating with a frantic, ugly energy, her chest heaving as she looked around for someone with more authority than an old janitor. She didn't care about the soil anymore. This was about power. This was about reminding the world that she was at the top of the food chain, and I was at the bottom. She took a deep breath, her face a deep shade of crimson that clashed horribly with her white outfit, and she let out a shriek that probably echoed all the way to the lumber yard at the back of the property. "Get me the manager. Now!" she screamed, her voice cracking with the effort. I didn't move. I just stood there by my hydrangeas, watching the glass doors of the main entrance. I knew exactly who was coming. I'd hired him 15 years ago when he was just a floor supervisor with a good head for numbers and a heart for people. I knew he was in the middle of his morning inventory check, but a scream like that would bring him running from the back of the warehouse. I waited, feeling the cool morning air on my face, knowing that the piece of my Saturday morning was officially over, but the lesson was just beginning. She screams, "Get me the manager, now!" The automatic sliding doors hissed open, and Dave came charging out. He was tucked into his crisp blue polo shirt with the company logo, my logo, embroidered over his heart. He looked frantic, his eyes darting around to find the source of the disturbance. When he saw Vanessa standing there, pointing a finger at me like she was accusing a criminal in a lineup, he slowed down, his expression shifting from panic to utter confusion. Vanessa didn't give him a chance to speak. She pounced on him before he could even get within 5 feet. "Dave, thank God," she cried, her voice dripping with fake victimhood. This senile old man you have wandering the grounds just assaulted my dignity. He refused to help me. He threw my keys in the dirt, and he spoke to me with utter contempt. "I am a VIP customer. Dave, I have a corporate account with 14 different job sites. I want him fired, and I want him gone right now, or I am taking my business to the big box competitor across town and canceling every single one of my contracts." She stood there, chest out, chin up, waiting for the apology she was sure was coming. She expected Dave to bow and scrape, to turn on me and cast me out into the street to satisfy her ego. She looked at me with a smirk that said, "I won." She really thought she held all the cards because she had a high balance on a credit card. She didn't realize that loyalty and respect are the only currencies that actually matter in my world. Dave looked at Vanessa, then he turned his head and looked at me. His eyes went wide, and the color drained from his face. He didn't move. He didn't say a word to her. He just stood there, paralyzed by the sheer absurdity of the situation. Dave looks at Vanessa, then looks at Arthur with wide eyes. He doesn't move. The silence stretched out, thick and heavy. Vanessa's smirk began to falter. She glanced between Dave and me, her brow furrowing behind those oversized sunglasses. She expected action. She got a frozen manager who looked like he'd just seen a ghost. Dave swallowed hard, his Adam's apple bobbing. He didn't look at her account status. He didn't look at her G-Wagon. He looked at me, and he spoke with a level of deference that clearly short-circuited Vanessa's brain. "Mr. Miller," Dave said, his voice slightly shaky. "I am so sorry. Are you okay? Should I call security? I didn't realize you were out here this morning." Vanessa froze. The word Mr. Miller seemed to hang in the air like a physical weight. The contractors by their truck started to chuckle, a low, rumbling sound that filled the parking lot. The realization hit the small crowd first. They knew the name on the sign out front. Then, slowly, painfully, it started to dawn on Vanessa. Her mouth opened slightly, but no sound came out. The janitor she'd been screaming at wasn't subordinate. He was the man who owned the ground she was standing on. I didn't say anything at first. I just reached into the pocket of my overalls and pulled out a clean rag. I slowly wiped the water and a bit of potting soil off my hands, one finger at a time. I looked at Dave and gave him a small, reassuring nod. "No security yet, Dave," I said, my voice calm and even. "Just go inside and grab the tablet. I want you to pull up this lady's account right here." Arthur takes the tablet. His finger hovers over the delete button. Dave was back in seconds, holding the store tablet. He handed it to me with a steady hand, though his eyes remained fixed on Vanessa, who had begun to shrink into herself. She looked smaller now. The designer tracksuit and the heavy jewelry no longer providing the armor she thought they did. I scrolled through the screen. There was her corporate account, linked to a local interior design firm. She did spend a lot of money. She was, by all technical definitions, a top-tier client. I looked up from the screen and looked her right in the eye. The rage was gone from her face, replaced by a frantic, pale desperation. "Mr. Miller," she started, her voice cracking. I didn't realize. I've had a very stressful morning, and I held up a hand, and she went silent instantly. "It shouldn't matter who I am," I said quietly. "If I were the man who swept the floors or the kid who loads the trucks, I would still deserve to be treated like a human being. My employees aren't machinery, and they aren't your servants. Your money might buy you a fancy car, but it doesn't buy you the right to be cruel." I looked back down at the tablet. With one deliberate motion, I tapped the delete button and confirmed the permanent closure of the account. "You are banned from this store," I told her, "and I'll be calling the other 14 locations to ensure your face is known at every one of them. We don't need your business that badly. I'd rather lose the revenue than lose the respect of my staff." I handed the tablet back to Dave and turned my back on her. I picked up my hose and went back to my hydrangeas. Behind me, I heard Dave hand her the keys he retrieved from the shelf and point toward the exit. The G-Wagon didn't honk when it left. It just crawled away in a shameful silence. I took a deep breath of the damp, morning air. The sun was fully up now, and the flowers were looking better than ever. Life is too short for anything but kindness. And sometimes the best way to teach that is to show someone exactly what they've lost. I held the tablet in my weathered hands, the screen glowing bright against the morning shadows. Vanessa's account was right there, a long list of transactions, a history of high-end purchases, and a platinum status that she clearly thought made her untouchable. I looked at the name of her firm and the job site she managed. It was a lot of business, the kind of account most store managers would do anything to keep. But Dave wasn't moving to stop me. He stood there, his jaw set, looking at me with a mixture of relief and pride. He knew that in this store, the value of a person wasn't measured by their credit limit. I looked Vanessa in the eye, and for the first time, I saw the arrogance drain away, replaced by a cold, sharp realization of what was about to happen. "This account represents a lot of money," I said, my voice carrying across the quiet lot. "But money is easy to find. Good people. People who treat a man in overalls with the same respect they give a man in a suit. Those are the people who built this company. Your attitude isn't just a bad mood, ma'am. It's toxic. It's a poison that I won't allow near my staff or my customers." My thumb hovered over the screen. I didn't hesitate. I tapped the delete button, and with a soft chime, her status, her discounts, and her access to our corporate credit line vanished into the ether. "You are banned from this store and from every other location I own. You have 5 minutes to get that vehicle off my property before I have it towed." Vanessa tried to sputter an apology, but the words died in her throat as I turned my back on her. The silence that followed the click of that tablet was the loudest thing I'd heard all morning. Vanessa stood there, her mouth slightly agape, the color drained so completely from her face, she looked like a marble statue of herself. The platinum status she brandished like a weapon was gone. I handed the tablet back to Dave without looking away from her. "It's done," I said. "Your firm's account is closed, and your name is flagged in our system. If you try to walk into any of my 14 locations, you'll be asked to leave. If you refuse, you'll be trespassing." She finally found her voice, but it wasn't the sharp, cutting bark from before. It was a thin, desperate warble. "Mr. Miller, please." I had no idea. I've had a very stressful morning, and I didn't mean any harm. We have 3 projects starting on Monday. I need those supplies. I watched her for a moment, The apology wasn't for her behavior. It was for the inconvenience of her consequences. She wasn't sorry she treated an old man like dirt. She was sorry she picked the wrong old man to bully. "You meant plenty of harm," I replied, my voice low and steady. "You meant to make me feel small. You meant to use your position to take away another person's livelihood just because they didn't jump high enough for you. That tells me everything I need to know about your character. My stores are built on the backs of people who work hard and treat each other with dignity. You don't fit that mold. Now, please leave my property." Vanessa tries to sputter an apology, but Arthur turns his back to continue watering his flowers. I didn't wait to see her face again. I turned my back on the designer tracksuit and the expensive SUV, picking up the hose where I'd left it. The water began to flow once more, a gentle, rhythmic patter against the broad green leaves of the hydrangeas. It was the only sound I wanted to hear. Behind me, I heard the crunch of gravel as Dave stepped forward. He didn't say a word. He simply picked up her key fob from the shelf where I'd placed it and held it out to her with a stiff, professional arm. When she snatched him from his hand, he didn't flinch. He just pointed his finger toward the exit of the lot. The G-Wagon's engine roared to life, a sharp contrast to the quiet morning. She peeled out, her tires spitting a bit of gravel against the curb, leaving behind nothing but a fading scent of expensive perfume and the lingering tension of her rage. I watched the dust settle back onto pavement. Dave walked over and stood beside me for a moment, watching the road. "You okay, Arthur?" he asked quietly. I nodded, looking down at my dirt-stained overalls and my worn-out boots. "I'm fine, Dave. Just making sure the roots get enough water. I've spent 40 years building this franchise, and I've learned that you can tell the measure of a person by how they treat those they think can do nothing for them." She saw a janitor, but she missed a man who built the walls she was standing in. At 74, I don't have time for anything but the truth. And the truth is that dignity isn't something you buy. It's something you carry in your hands, even when they're covered in dirt.
If you enjoy radio-style stories like this, please consider staying with us. This is QCF.